Okay, so apparently Pierre Poilievre is avoiding the media. Now, why would he do that, right? The CBC aired a whole segment today showing people just how much Pierre Poilievre has been avoiding the media. They had a bar graph and everything. It was very cute. Watch.
Major party leaders fan out across the country to deliver their messages to voters. One party's relationship with the media has come into focus. According to an analysis done by our colleagues at Radio-Canada, Conservative Party leader Pierre Poilievre has answered fewer questions from journalists than other leaders. Poilievre only answered 79 questions from reporters during the first half of the campaign. That's less than half the number answered by Liberal leader Mark Carney, and it trails the number answered by the NDP's Jagmeet Singh and the Bloc Québécois' Yves-François Blanchet.
Wow, look at that. He's taken less than half the questions that Mark Carney has taken on the campaign trail so far. Apparently, his team only allows about 4 questions each session, no follow-up. For context, Mark Carney typically takes 15 minutes of questions and the reporters usually get a follow-up question. Many of you might know that Pierre has a very antagonistic relationship with the mainstream media, especially the CBC. We know he wants to defund the CBC. To be fair, he said he will only defund the English arm of the CBC. He said he will keep Radio-Canada, the French arm of the CBC, right? He has also not allowed reporters to travel with him on the campaign trail. It's not like these reporters were going to be freeloaders. They were going to pay their way, right? But he hasn't allowed reporters to travel with him on the campaign trail. It is actually standard practice for reporters to travel with the candidates during the campaign so they can cover the candidates' activities. That kind of thing is important to catch spur of the moment type of stuff. Look, I'll say this right off the bat. I actually like the CBC. I think you reform the CBC and make it run better. I think they do very good work most of the time. I actually think they've done a good job trying to be non-partisan in this election cycle. Believe me, it is hard to stay neutral in politics. You guys who watch the channel have probably seen this, right? I give my opinion on Canadian politics. I like to think I'm pretty neutral. I critique both sides. One week I'll get conservatives raining insults on me, and the next week it's liberals calling me names, right? It's hard to stay neutral in politics, right? It is truly a thankless task. On the bright side, I have discovered that conservatives are just as sensitive as the liberals. Conservatives like to act like they have a monopoly of common sense. They act like they can deal with the idea of somebody else having an opinion that doesn't align with what they believe. Well, it turns out it doesn't matter which side, liberal or conservative, people just like their echo chambers. Like, if you've never tried this before, nothing is funnier than someone losing their shit because you gave an opinion they don't agree with. Even when I tell people, I'm happy for you to hold a different opinion, like, we really don't have to fight about it, right? I tell people this all the time. This channel is about opinions, yours and mine. I have a right to an opinion too. And our opinions don't have to be the same, but people still get mad. People still get angry over shit. Anyways, let's continue.
For more on this, I want to bring in Jeffrey Dvorkin. He's the former director of the journalism program at the University of Toronto. Jeffrey, nice to see you. Thank you for taking the time.
Nice to be with you, Andrew.
So what's your reaction to those numbers compiled by Radio-Canada?
Well, I'm surprised they're as small as they are, but election campaigns are funny things. The journalists need the politicians need the journalists, but there's a kind of mutual resentment that tends to grow over the course of a campaign. And this campaign is fairly short-lived. And it's pretty clear, I think, to me anyway, that maybe the tensions in the Conservative Party is an indication of bigger problems, that it feels to me like the wheels are coming off the Conservative campaign to a certain extent. And there's a certain resentment, natural resentment, that always is allowed to fester inside these campaigns. I think we're seeing more of it on the Conservative side of the campaign than on the Liberal or the NDP side.
Why do you think the wheels are coming off?
That's a good question. Did he just say the wheels are coming off the Conservative campaign? That seems a little presumptuous. I'm just going to say that, right? So, yes, we all see that Pierre Poilievre is down in the polls, but you know what else we all see? The crowds he's pulling at his rallies, those big crowds. That does not look like the wheels are coming off to me. I don't know about you. Like, we know the Conservative base is very strong. Most of the people who say they will vote Conservative today are probably locked in. I don't know if you can say the same about like the people that are saying they'll vote Liberal right now. Carney is polling well, and there seems to be this perception that the polls will hold come election day. You don't know that. You don't know that. You don't know that. So right now, 338 Canada's polling is showing McCartney at about 44% of the votes. That will be enough for a healthy majority of 196 seats, according to their projections. 44% is a lot. Let me put this in context for you. When Justin Trudeau won his majority in 2015, most polls had him at 39% or lower. Nanos had him at 39.1% on October 18th. That was the day before the election day. I found this very fascinating. The final results actually held very close to that number. Trudeau ended up winning 39.47% of the popular vote. Harper won 31.91%. So the polls held in that case. The reason I brought this up is just to illustrate that I don't expect McCartney to finish with 44%. That would just be bonkers, right? That is very, very high. Like, think about the idea of Justin Trudeau in 2015. He was walking in with the charisma and all the hopes of the younger generation, right? It was the young people that really carried Trudeau into his majority. Lots of enthusiasm. I know some girls that still drool over Justin Trudeau till this day, right? To be fair, there are people drooling over McCartney these days. Apparently, there are women screaming, "Lead us, Big Daddy," at his rallies. Like,
to do. But
Lead us, Big Daddy!
okay, I'm supposed to go back the way I came in, but I think I'm going to go back that way.
I guess everybody has a type. But do you think McCartney is quite as popular as Justin Trudeau was in 2015 today? I would say no. So I expect that projection of 44% to come down. Anyways, let's move on.
B-side.
Why do you think the wheels are coming off? Or why do you say that? Why do you say that? Mm-hmm.
Well, I think the polls are starting to indicate that even though it seems to be a close-run thing, the polls are indicating that the Liberals seem to be going ahead of the Conservatives. Mm-hmm. And the Conservatives, in their campaigning, they still have, there was a sense in the Conservative campaign that they really missed Justin Trudeau. They were planning on running against him, and now they're not. So there's a certain frustration that's been being built into the campaign, and I think we're seeing some of the results of that right now.
The Conservative leader is being very specific about which media outlets can ask him questions. It's usually just 4 questions. There are no follow-up questions. And we know that there's no plane where the media who pay to be on the plane, there's no following the leader on the plane. That's led to some complications in terms of covering the Conservatives. I want to play a clip from an exchange yesterday and get your reaction. Have a listen.
And I will not allow, and I will not allow that kind of thing to happen anymore. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll now take a call-in question from the phone line, and this will be the final question.
Your financial support for the Conservative Party. Is that why you're not getting a security clearance?
Sorry, I'm listening to the question. Sorry, there's just a protester here. Go ahead.
It's a reporter trying to ask a legitimate question.
We're listening. We're trying to listen for the next person who was up asking a question.
All right, so Jeffrey, that was, by the way, CTV's Judy Trin. That was not a protester, and she said that's a reporter trying to ask a question. I think she was not on the list because it's a very short list, and yeah, just your reaction to that.
Okay, so I'll be honest, hearing the reporter's voice, she did sound like a protester. I'm sure there are people that love that moment on the Conservative side. Like, I can see the headlines right now. Poilievre owns woke reporter. Turns out she wasn't a protester. She was a reporter from CTV. I think CTV does a good job as well, to be fair. You might know CTV is not government funded. They're not government owned. They are owned by Bell Media. So she was asking about an allegation that some people linked to India and Narendra Modi were funding Poilievre's campaign. I think that's a legitimate question. It's a legitimate question. McCartney faced allegations about connections to the Chinese Communist Party. So why shouldn't Poilievre face these questions? But the problem here is that it seems like Pierre Poilievre has this pre-approved list of people that are allowed to ask questions. And she wasn't on that list. So she wasn't allowed to ask Pierre Poilievre her question at that particular point in time. I think that's unfortunate because she did have a legitimate question. We know Pierre Poilievre likes to make his press conferences these tightly curated affairs. On the other hand, when Pierre Poilievre does take questions from the mainstream media like the CBC, you get some reporters asking dumb questions Like this one right here. Watch.
And to clarify your last question, are you saying that you would step aside and not compete for the head of the country to allow us to get through this crisis? Or I'm unclear about your answer to the last question.
Well, I find it a strange question. Your CBC is asking me to step aside in the next election. It's a very strange request. No, we're not going to suspend democracy. The Canadian people run this country, and they will choose the next Prime Minister. Thank you very much. Next question.
Thank you. Next question.
Look, all that said, I think Pierre Poilievre should be taking more questions. I think he should be doing podcasts and sitting down with people in more free-form type of conversations anyways, instead of these curated experiences. That's just my opinion. I feel like the Conservative Party does not need to button up Pierre Poilievre this much. He's a great speaker. He can handle himself. It's like they're scared that he will mess up or something. Like, I don't think his answers can be any worse than McCartney's answers. Have you seen McCartney just fidget sometimes? He looks hella guilty when someone asks him a question that he's uncomfortable with. So I don't think Pierre Poilievre needs to get cuddled up this much, right? He should answer questions and the people can get some transparency, right? Look, there's this idea that Poilievre needs to do this because the mainstream media is not fair to conservatives. Personally, I think the mainstream media has been very good this election cycle. I watch the CBC, I watch CTV, and between them, I think you get pretty close to neutral reporting, right? Also, many of you might have noticed that they're not being very nice to McCartney, right? All those moments where you see McCartney fumble, whether it was when he was talking about his assets or when he was talking about Brookfield or just whatever, all those moments you see McCartney fumble, those moments occurred because he was taking questions off the cuff. Right? Here's one exchange with a CBC reporter. You might have seen this one. It was a really, really wild moment. Look at this.
The rules say that those assets should be publicly disclosed within 120 days, which means you'll campaign in a coming federal election, most likely within the next 120 days, and are serving as Prime Minister now, with Canadians not being aware of what potential conflicts of interest you sought to avoid.
What possible conflict would you have, Stephanie? Stephanie, I'm complying with the rules. I'm complying with the rules in advance. Point for you.
Are you saying you are not open to any conflict of interest?
Yes.
You spent most of your life in the private sector. There's no possible conflict of interest in your assets. It's very difficult to believe.
Look inside yourself, Rosemary. I mean, you start from a prior of conflict and ill will. I have served in the private sector. I have stood up for Canada. I have left my roles in the private sector at a time of crisis for our country. I'm complying with all the rules. Your line of questioning is trying to invent new rules. I'm complying with the rules that Parliament has laid out and the responsibilities of the Ethics Commissioner. And I will continue to comply with those rules.
My point here is that this whole idea that, he's not taking questions off the mainstream as much because he's concerned about their bias reporting, I don't think it's founded. They haven't been nice to McCartney either. That's what we've seen in this election cycle. They haven't been nice to McCartney either. Look, I don't think Pierre Poilievre can possibly look as uncomfortable as McCartney looks when he answers these questions. So why are they wrapping him up in cotton wool? I expect the debates to be very interesting next week. I think I will stream the English debate and you guys can watch along with me on April 17th. That's next Thursday. It's going to be a party. It's going to be a watch party. Yeah, so if you want to join me for that, just hit subscribe right now so you will see the notification. It'll be fun. It will be hella fun. And I'll have a live chat and everything and we'll make it interactive so you guys can join the conversation as well. I'll see you next time, okay? Take care, guys.